Okay, I did this a couple months ago and people liked it, so I'm going to do it again. I used to do like a weekly book recommendation, and the segments didn't do that well, but people who liked them really did seem to like them. So what I'm doing now is every month or two, I'll just tell you what I've been reading recently, and I'll give you all the recommendations back to back to back. So let me give you some nonfiction recommendations. I recently read Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel. This is a book that has been on my to read list for a long time. Finally picked it up. Absolutely fascinating. Jared Diamond, an extraordinarily interesting guy. And what Guns, Germs, and Steel seeks to answer is the question of why did peoples from certain places do better and become the colonizers rather than the colonizees? I think that's the right word. Than the colonized, maybe to say it another way, beyond just because they had guns and diseases and metal stuff, right? Those would be sort of proximate causes. Yes, those who had guns, germs, and steel tended to become the colonizers rather than the colonized. But the more important question is, why did they end up with guns, germs, and steel before everybody else? And the book is fascinating. It also, by sort of accident in a way, debunks a ton of the race and IQ nonsense that a lot of alt-writers have been circulating for the last several years. Fantastic book. Absolutely a must read. I also recently finished up Bad Blood by John Carreyrou. And Bad Blood is an extraordinarily well-written investigative book by John Carreyrou about the scam that was Theranos, the company formerly run by Elizabeth Holmes, who at one point on paper was worth $4.5 billion by virtue of owning half of Theranos, which at one point was valued at $9 billion. Unfortunately, the entire thing was a scam. And I won't say more. If you've heard of the story, you already probably understand why it's an interesting read. If you haven't, get this book. I read it, I think, in 3 days. It was so compelling. And then last nonfiction suggestion, there is this news guy, Dan Harris, who had sort of like a panic attack breakdown on air several years ago. And he ended up finding meditation and mindfulness and sort of rethinking a lot of elements of his life. And he wrote a book called 10% Happier. And it's really interesting, not so much because of the meditation mindfulness stuff, which I'm already very familiar with, but seeing it from the perspective of an actual person who works in the media. Also a very quick read. I think I read it in like 5 days. So those are some nonfiction recommendations. Fiction. Okay. For new stuff, I recently read Bannerless by Carrie Vaughn, and I liked it. It's not my favorite book, but it is interesting, and it is in a sort of, I don't know if post-apocalyptic is the right word. There has been an incident called the Fall, and humanity has sort of receded, has fallen back in terms of technology and societal sophistication. And it's kind of painting a picture of what the world is like after that fall. And it's entertaining. It's not like my favorite book, but it's a recent book that I really like, enjoyed reading, although it's probably not on like my favorite books list. I also recently read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. Previously, the only Agatha Christie book I had read was A Murder on the Orient Express, which is, of course, fantastic. But I wanted to read something else by Agatha Christie, so I picked up The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It's short, it's like 100 pages, and it's really good in that same Agatha Christie style. And then I'm actually rereading John le Carre's book, Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. I read it like 10 or 12 years ago. This is one of John le Carre's top books, in my opinion. I'm rereading it, and I'm getting just as much out of it in rereading it as I did the first time. So if you haven't read Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, please do. It's fantastic.